Alrighty, happy hyperconsumption day, everybody. For those of you who are outside of the United States and don't have to deal with this, today is Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, when everything goes on sale, or at least pretends to. This used to be like a big box store kind of sale day, where most people would use it, I think, as a way to get their Christmas shopping done, but then it became like a weird parasite attached to other holidays that's entirely consumerist in nature and entirely about getting you to buy as much as you can for as many people as you can, including yourself, as much as you can, all the stuff that you need, and stuff that you don't even need. Just get all the things. And, I don't really love the buying of a bunch of garbage, but things do have utility, and I don't mind gift giving as a practice, especially if it's done relatively thoughtfully and if the gifts given have some value and some meaning to them, especially if they're in the way of like actively trying to anticipate the needs of somebody and fulfill needs that either they can't afford for themselves or like won't buy for themselves because they don't see it as a need, or just don't know that they would get use out of, but you know that they would get use out of. I think that's where like the greatest joys of gift giving come from, and gift receiving, are when a gift actually is useful and actually anticipates a need that you have. And there's in a hyper materialist, hyper consumptive system and culture, there's kind of a dearth of meaning to those gifts, to those objects, to those things. And I think that maybe we can do something about that. And there's a strange, weird line that we can walk where we still engage in practices that maybe we don't entirely agree with, but in ways that further goals that we do agree with. So, I've put together, and I thought about doing this last year. That's where this started. I thought about doing this last year. I never got around to it. I've put together a bit of a list of a few objects that I either have purchased for myself or have received as gifts or have given as gifts that I think were worth it, maybe to an outsized degree, where they were way more worth than the money that was put into them. So I've got some ground rules for the way that this is going to work, because I want to make sure that this video and this list and these recommendations stay within some bounds. And I think those bounds create creativity, and they also create my ideological like guide rails, because I don't want to do particular things. So here are those bounds. First is that I actually have it or have had it. I'm not at my home base, so a lot of these things I have sitting on my desk in my room. This is not my room. I'm halfway across the state, so I don't have these things. I can't like hold them and show them to you in the way that I would really like to, but I'd love to do that. I'll do my best to describe them as we go if I feel like it's necessary to give you a good understanding of why I'm recommending the particular thing. 2, I am not sponsored in any way, and that includes affiliate links of any kind. I think that even if you have the best intentions, and even if you put only affiliate links from the same retailer, that there is a skewing that happens when there's any profit motive engaged. So my profit motive works like this: if you find this list valuable to you, if it helps you make a decision, pay that forward to me directly by throwing me $1 on Patreon. That's it. I'm going to make the information free, and I'm not going to profit off of it directly in any way, including taking a percentage or a sponsorship or anything like that. I don't want to be engaged in that kind of a practice. It seems like it's corruptive to the person who engages with it, and I don't want to deal. So, no sponsorships, only things that I really like and have used and have. And the other thing is that I don't want to include things that become trash relatively fast, including consumables. So while there are great gift-giving options in terms of chocolate, coffee, tea, and I'm very much for those, I'm going to focus on things that are going to last at least a year, preferably 10, preferably a lifetime. And I'm really going to hone in toward the like lifetime sorts of things, because I think that's the value is so much more outsized. If $50 gets you a thing that lasts you for a year, and $100 gets you the same thing but it lasts for 10 years, one of them is way more worthwhile. And if we're doing the practice of gift giving, as a personal individual, you might not have the ability to, like, I need the thing now and I've only got $75. I can't buy the more expensive thing. So as a gift giver, you can bridge that gap toward a lifetime purchase that changes somebody's outlay of cash for the future. And that's really powerful. Okay, so I want to focus in on objects like that have great value and I think can be used by lots of types of people, but are also personal to me and things that I like and things that I've used. Okay, I've spent enough time doing it and talking about it. Let's get right to it. And we're going to start with my namesake and something that I drink every day on camera for the most part, which is tea, and specifically tools around tea stuff. Because there's like a very small barrier to entry to drinking tea. Get some water, make it hot, put it in something, put some leaves in it. Honestly, they don't have to be tea leaves even. They can be just rose petals, and that's tea. You've done it. But to go beyond that, you gotta buy tea bags at a local store, and to go beyond that, we start talking loose leaf. And if you're doing loose leaf, you need a couple of tools that get you away from consuming single-use tea bag packets like I'm using right now, because I don't have my tools with me, which sucks. And honestly, I should buy a new one for this house because it would be good to have. You need a couple of tools. I'm going to skip an electric kettle because you can go ahead and find yourself an electric kettle. I would recommend looking for one that's stainless steel or glass on the inside so that your hot water isn't in contact with plastic, because I don't really like hot water in contact with plastic, but that's just me, just my preference and the growing preference of a lot of the research. Glass and steel, good stuff, usually pretty okay. And on that note, we're going to talk teapots. I strongly recommend the brand Hario. They make Japanese glassware with stainless steel mesh inserts for the straining. The mesh is really fine, much finer than any of the glass with holes in it, much finer than any of the stainless steel sheet that's been stamped with holes in it. The mesh is very fine and does the best job out of anything that I've ever used at keeping the tea on the tea side and the hot water on the hot water side, which is exactly what you want. It also is extremely porous at the same time, so water moves through it very fast. So the natural flow of the water goes through the tea, and that seems really good to me. I get the best results for blooming teas in it. I get the best results for just being able to swish tea around in it, and I find them very easy to like rinse out from one side with a faucet and then flip over and rinse backward with like the pressure version of the faucet, and it's pretty much fucking clean. So I love these teapots. They're glass. You can see what's going on inside them. And I'm pulling up the large versions. They range from about $15 to about $22 plus maybe shipping. The large versions come in at 700 milliliters, which is a good amount of tea. 450 milliliters is probably enough for single serving sort of situations, but I like to make a pot that I can pour a couple of cups out of and really enjoy. So I'm going to list the 700 milliliter versions because they're dope. I think either variant, and there are a couple more, whether they've got the flat bottom or the rounded bottom are fine. Personally, though, if I were going to buy a new one, I would buy the rounded bottom because it's a little bit easier to wipe out with a sponge or a scrubby thing. And over time, tea does like leave a patina or a residue. And on ceramics, that can be kind of nice. And sometimes on like iron pots and things, that can be kind of nice. People love the patina of tea. On glass, it just kind of makes the glass look dirty. One downside of using glass, but the upsides that it's cheap, fairly easily replaceable, obviously clearly clean. Like, I really like that aspect of it. And I like that I can see the tea inside of it, see what color it gets to, see the leaves as they steep, see all this stuff. they're also, I think, less expensive than most other teapots and really good at their job, so I really like them. That's my recommendation for tea pots. But what about once the tea is brewed, you need to put it in something to drink it out of? And one of my most wanted and reached for, like, oh gosh, I wish I had that, things while I've been here are a couple of particular mugs that I have that I would in a heartbeat purchase again, and would absolutely purchase for somebody as a gift if I knew that they were a tea or coffee drinker, or honestly just if they drink things, because you can drink cold beverages out of a mug too. It's a thing you can do. First, I think, has to be the big boy. I have this appears in a number of my videos because I drink weird things out of it. I tend to use it for smoothies in particular, and I've never found anything quite like it. This is the Always Azul Pottery Full Tankard. It comes in a couple of different glazes. Each one of them is handmade and going to be somewhat unique. They're coming out of Colorado, I think, and they're lovely. The one that I have has lasted me years. It is thick. The ceramic itself is hefty. You could fit a large tall boy, not the thin tall boys, but a large tall boy straight into the center of it, no problem, with room to jiggle around. And then you could crack it and turn it over and pour it in there and use it as a tankard for a big old beer. Or you could take that entire 700 milliliters of tea that you just made in your big teapot and pour it into your mug for direct, beautiful, delicious consumption. And because it's nice, thick porcelain, ceramic, earthenware stuff, it'll actually hold the temperature in there pretty well. I love this mug. It is an expensive piece of pottery. It's $36 handmade, and it's $15 delivery. They do not use Amazon Prime shipping, and I'd recommend it to anyone. I've showed it to a number of people, and they've wanted one. I have a couple of people on my list that I think I'm going to be purchasing one for if I get the chance, and it's just a wonderful fucking mug. There's nothing like it. I've always loved big, like, soup mug situations where it's like a big mug that's actually a bowl with a handle on it. I love them, and this to me is the natural extension of that. It's bigger, it's badder, it's like this large, it's the size of your head. You can pour a full blender worth of smoothie into it, and it's just, it's the right mug. It's just the right mug. Now, if you want something a little bit smaller and more like daily driver use, I really like the Clay in Motion Handwarmer mugs. They make both a left-handed and a right-handed. Make sure you get the one that fits for your hand. For some reason, have the left-handed one pulled up. But as far as I know, Clay in Motion is the store that invented this format of mug. You can now find this design of mug stolen by a bajillion auto manufacturers, some of which are probably going to be 3D printing it in China, like literally 3D printing it with ceramic stuff and then glazing it. It's up to you whether you want to pay the $10 difference to get it handmade by somebody who actually designed the thing, but I'd recommend it. I've had a number of these. They're less lifetime-y. They're breakable just like any other mug. I've dropped the big boy a couple times and it's survived to my surprise. This mug is just a mug. It'll break, but the design of it is wonderful. I love the little hand-warmy feature of it. It really fits around your hand, and it just makes for a nice sensory tactile experience if you're drinking a hot beverage. If you're sipping your tea, it's a nice thing to reach for. You can hold the handle of it from the handle side, like away from the mug, so that you're not attached to it while it's too hot. But if it's in the right temperature zone where you'd like to warm your hands on it, it gives you that option too, which really makes it kind of versatile as an object to hold. And there's something about well-designed tactile sensory experiences that are really simple that I really enjoy and I find very appealing. And this is one of those that you get to use every day, and there's something really nice and really nice about that, I think. So I recommend this mug. And I think that wraps our tea segment. This is tea stuff that I think takes tea experiencing from hot leaf juice to oh, I drink tea now. No, this is how I drink tea. My tea workflow is a stainless steel internal, way over expensive electric kettle that doesn't need to be nearly as nice as it is. If I had to do it again, I'd buy a knockoff, but I bought a nice one so that it could sit in my videos. It's not here. And that heats up the water. I pour that over like a nice gyokuro or like dark green tea inside one of the Hario kettles, let it steep until it's steeped, and pour it into one of those brilliant mugs, and then I'm off to the races. And that's just a wonderful time. And it's the tools that make up that workflow that have changed it over my experience from like, I'm pouring tea from plastic electric kettle or like a pot on the stove into a mug with a tea bag in it, which is kind of what I do here, into something that's like a daily ritual that I really enjoy. So that's tea. Okay, that covers tea. Now I want to do a couple of tools. Tools that are actually useful are the best thing in the entire world to me. Maybe that makes me a guy's guy, I don't really know. Things that I can reach for that sit on my desk that I use over and over that help me get into stuff, or fix stuff, or pry stuff open, or are the right thing for the right purpose are invaluable, especially when they don't break over and over, and when I don't have to worry about them, and when I can find them, and yeah, when they're just right. I've used a lot of screwdrivers. I think everybody's used a lot of screwdrivers. I've used a lot of screwdrivers. I've used a lot of Klein screwdrivers. I've used some Milwaukee screwdrivers. I've used screwdrivers probably over time from every major company. And I have, over my lifetime, continued to go back over and over to a little teeny tiny screwdriver that was gifted to me by my mom when I was probably 8. And it looks like this, and it is called a Picquic is the company, teeny turner. And it's a little tiny stubby screwdriver that's like yay big. It fits into wonderful places. It's really solid hard plastic. The magnet that magnets the screwdriver bits into it is fucking strong magnetic neodymium. It's good stuff. The bits themselves are really well hardened, made of some kind of better steel than most. I've used the little guys to pry so much more shit than they should ever pry. I've used the little Torx bits on them to clean things and poke things out and scrape stuff. I've used it a bajillion times. I love that little screwdriver, so much so that after maybe, oh gosh, it was probably well over 10 years after I'd gotten it, I decided to go and look for another one. And I discovered that they make them and sell them, and I was very glad to find that out. So I went to purchase a new one with the intent to treat my old one as a knockaround for prying things and stuff, and the new one as a nice precision driver so that I could actually use it for micro torques and things, and discovered that this is not the only screwdriver that the company makes. In fact, they make many screwdrivers, and I found this multi-pack of 3 multi-drivers, and I purchased it. And this is probably well over 10 years ago, and well over 10 years after I had purchased after I'd been gifted the first driver. So 20 years plus of using these drivers now. I love them. I love them a lot. I reach for them continuously when I have them. When I don't have them, I wish I had them. The middle driver in between is definitely the sweet spot and the one that I prefer the most. It's called the Multique, and it contains those 3 Phillips bits, 2 flatheads, and 2 larger Torx bits. The Phillips are just the right size for almost everything, a 0, a 1, and a 2. When they're relatively sharp, well-formed bits, that can do almost anything. And the drive shafts of them are really quite long. In a lot of multi-driver bits, the screwdriver handle has the length to it, and that means that when you have a recessed screw that's deep into a piece of an electronics thing or something like that, you can't fucking get to it, and you're stuck. The drive shafts are really long on this, which means you can actually get to the stuff. So the Multique, awesome. The big boy has some redundancy to it. It covers the 1, 2, and 3 Phillips, but I mostly, honestly, use it as a bigger pry boy because you gotta have a screwdriver to pry stuff and get into places and do things that you're not actually supposed to use a screwdriver for, and it's hefty enough to actually do that while also having some redundancy for those useful bits and being really useful if you need to screwdrive 2 things at the same time or something like that. And then, of course, there's the one that started it all, the Teeny Turner with a 00 and a 0 Phillips. It's perfect for eyeglass repair or opening up a phone or a laptop or whatever, and it's got the Torx bits for the same purpose, and a little flathead for getting into places and doing little pry things. And again, because it's so small, you can fit it inside like a computer chassis and not get wedged and stuck and unable to unscrew a thing, which is wonderful if you don't want to go and have to pull out a right angle like ratchet driver or some specialized tool. Having the one screwdriver that does all of those things is just so fucking nice. So for a $40 set to cover all 3 and have internal redundancies across for like your most used bits, your flatheads and your Phillips, I highly recommend these drivers. I've never had any that feel as, I don't know if this is actually true, but to me they feel like some of the best work hardened driver heads that I've ever had, and I really appreciate the precision of them when I'm doing almost anything that involves screws, because if you know, then you know what it feels like to stick a screwdriver against a screw and have the connection point feel gummy and it doesn't quite fit. And you're like, well, am I stripping the screwdriver or am I stripping the head of my screw? I don't know, but something is getting messed up by me doing this, and at some point this isn't going to work anymore. And when you reach that point with a project that you really need to do, it sucks so bad. You just wish that you had a really good screwdriver to do the job right the first time and not break things. And to me, this is the screwdriver that I always wish that I had, that I always wish that I could reach for. So the Picquic 3-driver multifamily pack, I have it in a nice pale blue. I found it in orange here. I found it in a multicolor carded pack with clear versions. All of them come in around $40. All of them are worth way more to me and maybe to you. So, and maybe to the person that you're giving gifts to. So there you go. On the note of tools, but in a different category, I would be absolutely remiss to not bring up the one thing on this list that I actually have in my hands in front of me, and the one thing that pretty much I use every video now. This is the Kaweco Sketch Up clutch pencil. It holds I've got so little left. I thought it was so much longer. It holds a 5.6 millimeter thick lead, which is a thicky boy. Your wood 2B pencil generally is going to have a 2 millimeter thick lead core in it. So this is more than it's 2.5 plus diameters of that. It's a big, thick chunk of lead, and that means that it's fucking awesome to use. It still ends up with sharpish corners so that you can use it for all sorts of things, but for shading or for drawing or for whatever, it's amazing. And the construction of the pencil itself is solid metal. There's a brass version that is genuinely beautiful and just gorgeous. There's the satin chrome version, which I'm holding in my hands right here, which when I purchased it was less expensive than the brass version, and now something weird has changed, and the brass version, which I honestly wish that I had, is now cheaper. Holy crap. So if you're gonna get one, I would get the brass one because it seems awesome. This thing is hefty. It has a weight to it, so when you place it upon the paper, it already sinks the lead in, and it just feels solid. It feels like an artist's tool. It feels inspiring a little bit, and it feels delicate enough to use for most writing and note-taking, but it absolutely shines during drafting or drawing. And so if you know somebody who does any drafting or drawing or just really would enjoy having a very nice pencil, this is the nicest pencil that I'm aware of in the world. And I love it. I love the feel of the 5.6 millimeter lead, and I love the feel of this particular design of pencil. The geometric shape of it fits really nicely in the hand, but then it contours down in a way that's really smooth. The clutch action is, oh god, it's like, it's butter. It's so smooth and so sturdy. The spring in it is so solid. I have no doubt that this thing can outlive me as long as I don't drop it in the ocean or something stupid, you know? So I think this really fits that lifetime sort of vibe, and is, if I could only grab one pencil, it would probably be this one. However, I also recognize that $40 is pretty fucking steep for a pencil, so if you want to move toward the 5.6 millimeter awesome leads and all of the features of this pencil while staying a little bit less expensive, there's a company called Koh-i-Noor, also well respected, that makes a similar lead holder with similar clutch. I've never actually held this one in my hand, so it doesn't really fit the list. I recommend the Kaweco because it's awesome, but I did think about getting the Koh-i-Noor, and I have no doubt that it's a wonderful piece of stationery. What do you call pens? It's not stationery. Is it stationery? I don't know. I have no doubt that it's wonderful. It also has a clip, which might be very valuable for some people. I would have no problem recommending this, but I've never actually held one in my hand. If the big thicky boy is a little too big and thick and you'd rather have like a normal pencil, I can strongly recommend the Staedtler Technico lead holder, the 780C that I have up right here. It's got a similar clutch action, but it fits a 2mm lead, so the same size as a normal wood pencil, except as a mechanical pencil. This bridges the gap between, like, here's a solid thing that lasts forever, kind of, and doesn't take up any wood, but is also wonderful and sturdy to hold, and is usable, but isn't like one of the little dinky clicky lead pencils where you can just press on it with just a little bit of pressure and the lead snaps, which I freaking hate, and I know a lot of people do. Having a nice solid 2mm lead means you can actually push on the dang thing and really draw with it and really write with it, or hold it against a ruler and really press in and get some nice, thick, beautiful drafting lines, which is what it's made for. I can strongly recommend this lead holder. I've owned one. My grandfather owned the previous version of it, the Eagle something, which is what started my journey on clutch-based lead holders in the first place, was that I inherited a briefcase full of his drafting and drawing stuff, and in it is a pencil that became my favorite pencil ever and sent me on a scavenger hunt across the world to find whatever fits that niche, and I found this guy and the Staedtler Technico, which I still usually carry in a padfolio that I carry everywhere, and use as my primary pencil. It's awesome, and I think if you have somebody who draws, writes, or drafts in your life, they will love it. Also, any contractors who need it to mark cuts and stuff, get them the Staedtler Technico. It's wonderful. I will include one tool for hair and stuff because I've got it, and this is something that's made a genuine difference for me. Combs make my hair frizzy, and it's because they're made of plastic. There are other options. One of them is stainless steel, one of them is weird carbon fiber stuff, but my favorite option, because it lasts relatively well, although what I'm about to show you kind of denies that, lasts relatively well and actually kind of gets better with time, is wood, in particular sandalwood. It smells really nice, and as you use it, it actually gathers up your natural hair oils, and they sort of infuse the wood, making it age really well and become a little bit more like smooth as it goes through your hair. I find that it's really good at distributing my natural hairness through the hair, and it's really good at getting through tangles. And it doesn't stab me with the points of the comb. and it doesn't make my hair frizzy. So I really like these. They're nice, they smell good, they feel nice to use. It feels nice to not use a plastic comb. I did manage to like fling this at the floor because I think I was like pulling through a knot and it went ba-bam and it went fudging and it went clang and the tip flew off of it. So this doesn't exactly stand for its durability, but otherwise it's been relatively durable. I know that in the past I purchased this particular one from this particular company, but I don't have a particular like investment in it or anything like that. There are a bunch available in a bunch of places. I would just recommend getting one made out of sandalwood because they're cool, and getting one in a design that you like that doesn't look bad. It looks like it's not going to hurt you, because there are some badly designed combs out there, and I don't like them. Okay, this is one for the gym goer, and it's a simple one. I think that this can be the last shaker bottle that you ever need. It doesn't have a ball in it, or a thing that you have to clean other than the sphere itself. And it's not really a sphere, it's sort of like a capsule shape on the inside. It's like rounded. So when you shake it, it creates a cool vortex and really shakes its stuff. They work great. I've had the plastic one for many years. It's sitting on my shelf at home. And if I had my druthers, I would absolutely go and shell out the extra money to get a fully stainless steel capsule shaker by the same company, because that seems like a true buy it for life last shaker that I would ever need. I think these actually work really well. I like the design of them. This thing seals really effectively and feels really solid. So I've purchased one for a friend previously. I have one for myself. And if it ever were to break for some reason, I would strongly consider purchasing the over-engineered, kind of extreme, kind of absurd stainless steel version, because it's fucking awesome. And if you're going to be shaking things and mixing meals and stuff daily or multiple times a week, that's awesome. Also, if you have a gym goer who's in your life, they might really like this, because oh god, have you ever cleaned congealed protein powder out of the bottom corner of the angle corner of the bottom of one of those big shaker cups? It's terrible. You can't get a scrubby thing in there. It's too far down for your hand to reach with a sponge. It's like now it's disposable, and plus most of them are made of shitty plastic that absorbs the smell anyway. I'm almost selling myself on going and buying one of the stainless steel ones because they're awesome, but I don't super need it right now, so I'm going to hold off. However, if you need it right now, get one. They're amazing. And I think this will be the last one on the list, and also the least long-lasting one on the list, but kind of a classic. There's a reason, and I didn't understand it when I was young, but there's a reason that grandparents get people socks for the holidays. They're warm, and people don't buy socks for themselves. I know I don't, unless I like make a conscious effort to go and I need to buy socks for myself. I'm gonna go and invest in socks. But nobody fucking invests in socks. Probably the men in your life in particular are walking around with holes in their toes, and probably they're freezing. You should invest in some good socks. There are a few options for good socks that lots of people really like. There are the Darn Tough socks. Lots of people really like the Darn Tough socks. There are the Bombas socks. Lots of people really like those. Me, in particular, I like Alpaca wool. This comes in a weird way from a couple of trips that I did to Ecuador and Chile when I was young, where I actually saw some alpacas and was able to purchase some alpaca wool gear from people who had alpacas, which was very cool, and it's the best fucking wool ever. It's one of my favorite materials in terms of clothing is wool, merino wool, and alpaca wool. I really like alpaca wool, and it's a little bit scratchy, so most alpaca wool providers mix it with something else. They'll blend some alpaca wool with some merino wool, and that's just fine. A lot of them, unfortunately, will also include some polyamide and some elastane, and I have given up, honestly. I don't know that it's economically feasible to find fully merino and alpaca wool socks. If you do find some fully 100% merino alpaca wool socks that are long-lasting and relatively affordable, I would love to know about it, especially if they're not super wool, if they're not treated with plastic spray on them. I've given up, honestly. I don't have the ability to source those right now. So I will just say alpaca wool socks in general are wonderful. They're relatively long lasting, and they keep the heat right in the right place. They keep the warmth in your toe beans, and that's very nice. So I have purchased multiple times the Go With alpaca wool socks. There are a couple of versions. Some of them are a little bit more loose knit than others. Like these look a little bit more loose knit. So be careful which version you purchase. And those have served me very well, but they may not be the ideal, and so I can't recommend them 100% wholeheartedly, but in the absence of an obvious better option, these would be my go-to socks, and they remain my go-to socks. I have a pair of them on my feet right now, which I will not show you because I'm not going to be giving you free feet on the internet. Not today. That wraps up my list, but I've been asked by my lovely partner Seraph to include one item as an honorable mention because it is the object that I purchased for them last year for the holidays. This is a bit of a niche one because it's not going to fit everybody. It's not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's going to need this, but for those people who do need this, it is absolutely life-changing. In a broader sense, heating pads and heating pad technology are awesome, and there have been great improvements in them. You can get a relatively inexpensive heating pad, just a straight square or rectangular heating pad, and that does a lot, especially if you're freezing at night or if you have pain. Heating pads can really help. For aches, for significant muscle discomfort, for all sorts of things, heating pads are awesome. You can also plop one on your head. But there's one area that it's really hard to get heating pads to stay on, and that's the general lower abdomen and pelvis. And a lot of people have pelvic pain, and my partner has pelvic pain and has cramps monthly and sometimes more often, and it sucks. It's debilitating. There's a small company called REBRelief that I have no affiliation with, except that I have purchased one of their ugly fucking diapers, and it's plugged in right now, and it's probably in use right now because it lets my partner exist without being in pain all the time. And for $100 for a honestly really well-designed heating pad that fits on like a big ugly pair of underwear, and you can just sit in your big ugly diaper and not be in pain, it's worth every penny. It's wonderful. So that's my final honorable mention recommendation is the REBRelief heating pad, because it really offers some relief for those particular people who really need it. And in a broader sense, in general, there are lots of good heating pads. Sunbeam makes them. A bunch of companies make them. Get one. They work. Don't burn your house down. Be a little bit careful. Plug it into something with it, like a GFCI circuit or something like that if you can. And be safe, be cozy, be warm, and enjoy giving presents to people with some intent behind them. I hope that this weird list of odd things that I've found useful serves as a useful touchstone for finding other useful things for you. And if you have gifts that you've given or received that you'd like to recommend to me, I would really enjoy it if you'd put those in the comments, because those might come around maybe next year for another version of this video. And I'd really love to make something like this, like a thing that we do where we share in like a careful version of there are things that you need. How do we get those into the gift-giving situation without giving in to the terrifying anglerfish that just wants to consume you? You know? Okay, that's the end of my spiel. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope this was useful, genuinely. If it was, consider throwing me $1 on Patreon. That's the way to thank me for it and for me to actually get some incentivize this kind of creation. And I'll see you next time for another video. Much love. Peace.